When was a frick it, I'll do it myself moment for you? At the start of the pandemic I had a cyst growing in my hand. It was so painful I couldn't lower my hand below my chest or it would be agony. However, because I'm extremely vulnerable, I wasn't able to go to the hospital as the local was on lockdown and completely overflowing with COVID cases. I was just given antibiotics that did nothing. So one night I'd finally had enough. I'd already had 6 removed in the last year, so knew what the deal was. I woke up at 2 a.m. in unspeakable pain, said frick it, and dug the thing out myself with some sterilized tweezers, a surgical knife and a shitload of kitchen towels to mop up the blood. Did it while watching WrestleMania cause it was the only thing on at 2 a.m. The next day I called my doctor cause I now had a perfectly circular hole in my hand, but it wasn't deep enough for stitches, just advised I patch myself up with some plasters, and he sent some more specific antibiotics to my house. He mentioned the cut looked pretty well done and the cyst was entirely removed, so I thought that was pretty cool. 3/10, just for being able to say I operated on myself and didn't cause any further complications. Part-timer mopped the freezer. With water. I had a group project in college where my group completely flaked. Skipped meetings, missed deadlines, never delivered. The day we were meeting to combine all our parts into a single report, no one showed, didn't even email their parts. Turns out, they all planned on writing their parts that day, the day before it's due. They had nothing, and now weren't even going to try. So, frick it, did it all myself. Took all their names off it, added our email chain as an appendix. It wasn't until I was presenting it in front of the class solo that they realized what happened. I bought a house recently and the previous owners didn't leave the mailbox key. I had a million other things to do, so I figured I'd call a locksmith and let them deal with it. After getting jerked around by 3 different guys who refused to even give me a ballpark on cost, I said frick it and drilled into the lock myself and replaced it. Got the job done for $30, new lock plus a wrench I had to buy, instead of probably $200. The very first day home after my second open heart surgery. I was 6 years old, sitting on the kitchen floor playing with my Hot Wheels, and I realized how to use the bathroom. After being in the hospital for weeks, I was taught I had to be very careful. I was dosed with morphine and couldn't feel that my sternum, which had been sawed in half, was still healing. I called for my mom to come pick me up and help me to the bathroom. No answer. I called again. Nothing. Well, I'm obviously not peeing my pants. I'm a big girl, damn it. So I very carefully pushed myself to my feet and walked unaided for the first time since my surgery. Freaked my mom out and she was super apologetic that she couldn't hear me calling. Finally started driving when people started smoking fentanyl on the trains and buses. I was working tech support for a company, making $12 an hour, doing internal pre-alpha testing on a new product. I figured out the root cause for the biggest problem keeping the product from working properly, which at the time was threatening the launch of the product. I told the engineer responsible. He ignored me. Later, at an all-hands meeting when the problem was being discussed, I brought up my findings again in the presence of all involved including management. The engineer said, "Go get an engineering degree and then tell me how to do my job." Coincidentally, that day happened to be the last day of open enrollment for the next semester at my local university. I quit my job, took out the student loans, and went to school full-time from there. Now I've got an electrical engineering degree, and a 6-figure salary doing factory automation with companies like Tesla on my resume. I never did take the time to go back and tell that guy how to do his job. Cutting my own hair during peak COVID. I picked an easy cut and it came out pretty good. It's something close to a motto. I had an appointment at the dentist to have a rotten tooth removed. I turned up, talked to the dentist, she numbed me up with a local anesthetic and set to with her pliers. She yanked. And pulled. And yanked some more. Nothing happened. It's worth mentioning that she was very small, maybe 5 feet 1 inch. She said she would see if she could find a stronger colleague. No problem, said I. Let me have a go. Okay. So she put the pliers back on my tooth, and I mumbled and drooled, "Are you absolutely sure it's the right one?" "Yes," she said. So I carefully took hold of the pliers as she released her grip on them. She had another peek in my mouth to ensure they were gripping the correct tooth, and nodded. I pulled like hell and my tooth came out. She even gave me a 10% discount off my bill. Senior year of college. I was apparently the only one capable of actually doing anything hardware related for our senior design project. Told one of the group to do a basic ass thing, and he called me saying the whole system was broken. After that, I said frick it, took everything home and did all of the build work while the other mainly did the write-ups. It's not super crazy. But at 25 years old, I had been saving for a car for years. I was living with my folks and my dad had told me if I save up $2,000 he would help me get a car. I saved it easily, but every time I asked to go look for a car Dad would tell me I needed to prove I could hang on to that money. Which of course I couldn't because he was having me pay my medical bills and med costs, I mean, fair enough, I'm an adult, but I was only making $8.50 an hour at the time. Around that time my younger brother graduated from high school. My dad and uncles banded together, bought, and gave him no strings attached an old shitty van. I was livid. So I dragged my dad down to a dealership and bought my first car. Took out a loan and everything. My dad had always tried to stunt me growing up, but I was over being a kid. I was 25 for crying out loud. He was hella pissed because he didn't want me to be in debt, but nuts to that. Now I'm 31. On my second car that I bought brand new, and have great credit, all because my brother got a free car and I wanted to spite my dad. That's how I started making computer game mods. I started playing Witcher 3 4 years after it was released. Some spoilers below. When I finished the main storyline, I was disappointed that the political changes Geralt helped to implement were in no way visible. I just killed a lot of people to put Dijkstra on the throne, and yet every time I walk through the Novigrad square I still have to listen to the witch hunters shouting about burning mages? It's been 4 years though. Surely, someone has already made this very essential mod? Well, apparently not. I have never made a single mod before in my life, but since playing without it was just unimaginable, I searched for some tutorials and started working on it. I even made complimentary mods for other endings after I published the first one and people were interested. It's gonna be small and I don't know if it fits, but teacher had hot chocolate for the students, which she would tell people that she lets everyone have some. Bad thing is that in reality she only actually let her favorite students have any and would actively say no to a select few kids it was clear she didn't like. I was one of those favorites but would actively choose not to have any. One day a kid asked if they could have some and she decided to yell at the kid, "Bring some yourself." So like the smartass I am, decided if she won't share then I will, and the next day I brought some pouches of hot cocoa and shared with the kids I knew she didn't like. Hot cocoa was not given to anyone after this event. At work, often. Hold on, that doesn't look right, but when I try to report it, no one seems to care. I know it's not right, so I follow it up myself by doing stuff that is technically not really in scope for me. Turns out that surprise surprise, it's super not right and nothing would have been done had I not persisted. When I was a kid I was told that I wouldn't make the high school varsity team. I did. I was told that my baseball life would end there. It didn't. Then as a freshman college, I was told that this was the end of the baseball line. It wasn't. I know some people get discouraged by negativity, but sometimes it builds such a big chip on your shoulder that you have no other option but to carry the burden, and wear it like a badge of honor. Every request my mom makes to my younger brother. He is very stubborn, also an asshole most of the time. So, for me to not hear her screaming at him for the next half hour I just do it. A friend and I went to a concert at the old Gillette Stadium. It was chaos getting out of there. We moved maybe 50 in over an hour. So, I got out of the car and had a look around. There was some temporary fencing and we figured if we rammed it with the car, it would open up another conduit to get to the exit quickly. At the time I was driving this shitty old Ford and didn't really care what happened to it. So, I got back into the car, said to my friend, "Are you ready?" and drove straight into the fence. It came down easily. We started our own path to the exit and were on a highway in 10 minutes. There was literally a path of cars behind me once I took the fence out. We got back to my friend's house, went to sleep, and I inspected the car when I got up the next day. The only damages to the car were 2 small scratches on the front bumper, which were just in addition to the numerous other scratches already there. 10 would ram a fence with my car again. I was waiting forever and a day for a tiler to call me back, so I said frick it and tiled the kitchen wall myself. Doesn't look half bad. I also hung the upper closets on the wall myself. Luckily the wall is sturdy because it's new and I used quite big dowels. The sewer line under our house was failing because it had deteriorated. We had 3 estimates: $2,750 to put a liner and part of it, $3,250 to put a liner and most of it, and $8,000 to dig it out, under our wood and slate floors, and replace the run with PVC. That included no repairs to the floors afterwards, just concrete over the opening. My buddy told me I could do it myself for under $1,000. He lent me his electric jackhammer and a saw that I used to cut the concrete. I started at 4 o'clock on a Friday right around this time last year. I set up a canopy behind the back door where I was dumping all the concrete and dirt that I dug out. It had snowed 2 days earlier, so there was about 6 inches of snow on the ground still. I dug out the entire pipe, including a run to an old toilet drain that shot off to the side and went up the wall. I was finally at the point on Sunday at noon where I put an angle grinder to the pipe and started cutting. The point of no return. I removed the horizontal and vertical lines in short order. I measured and cut the new PVC, dry fitted all and checked levels. Started gluing around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Had everything tied back together by sunset. Went to work the next day, got off work and went back to refilling the trench. Wrapped up by Wednesday, except for resetting the slate which I had to wait on due to backorder. Saved $8,000. The kicker was that there was a massive stone set right against the pipe where the drain crew said the deterioration was. Turns out, that stone had somehow deformed the pipe. No damage, just an oval instead of a circle and, well, shit would clog up right there. If we had had a liner put in, the problem would have actually ended up worse than before. All told, I put in $800 in supplies and materials. I gave my buddy $100 for the encouragement and letting me use his tools. So I put 5-ish days, plus another to set tile, to save my $7.1 thousand and ended up with a better fix than I would have had. Getting through severe depression. 2 hideously bad therapists, a couple horrible pastors. Fundamentalist awfulness. Finally I just said frick it, I'll do it myself, and got a job as a janitor and clung to it for 2 years just so I could prove to myself that I could stick with something. While I was there, a reporter who got to know me told me that I should go to college after reading a humorous note I wrote about not vacuuming. Vacuum broke. So I did. And I was good at it. And though I have struggled with anxiety and taken antidepressant, I have never had severe depression again. Recently kind of renewed my outlook on life, and this is pretty much at the core of it. I used to, like most people, notice but ignore problems around me because they were someone else's problem. Rubbish on the ground, someone should pick that up. Shopping cart left in a parking space, someone should move that. That bus stop is covered in rain, someone should dry that off. Then I realized. Someone isn't coming to do the thing. Because someone is already here. Me. I am someone. I can do the thing. Instead of waiting for someone who cares, I do it myself because I don't care. I don't care about the 3 seconds it took to bend over or pick up that bit of rubbish. I don't freaking care that my jumper got wet so that someone's grandmother could sit at a dry bus stop. I don't care that it wasn't my shopping cart, but I'm walking there anyway, might as well take the cart back with me. I return my empty glass when I go to the bar to order my next beer. It's not freaking hard. You don't even have to give a shit. Ha ha ha. So, next time you see something and your brain says someone should do something about that, remember this. Remember who you are. You are someone else. You can do it. Nothing can stop you. And if someone asks why are you doing that when it's not your problem, you can say, somebody once told me. Just about every day at work. I am the senior operator and work with several people that don't listen when asked to do things. They just sit on their ass and play on their phone. So I just go take care of it. When asked by the boss why I'm doing it instead of sending my helper, I just say they were too busy watching videos. And now I'm an asshole for not making them do their job. I don't get paid to be a freaking babysitter. Tried to start many bands to play the music I've written, but there's so much weird ego shit when playing music with people you aren't close to, so I gave up and reinvested in bedroom music production. This happens a lot at work. I work at FedEx, so we move a lot of boxes. I don't load trailers anymore since I got a promotion, but I move special boxes around the building. The boxes we move could be anything from a corrosive material to a bed frame to a carpet. We have 5 areas we move those boxes to. There was one area that no one was covering because of the amount of flow going there, so I looked at everyone around me not covering it, disappointed in them for not doing their jobs. We had the people, but the guy originally covering it left because it was too hard that day, and I stepped up and took care of it. I'm still the only person covering it, seeing as how every time I leave it everyone tries to leave it again. P.S. No, I don't know where your packages are, I lose mine there too. Wrote a peer-reviewed medical paper that got published and is currently heavily cited on Women Plus Mental Health Plus Estrogen. My doctor said if depression related to hormones there was nothing you could do about it. My response: went to bed and wrote and published this research. I'm not a medical specialist, just a scientist. Both pregnancies I was told to avoid lifting heavy things. Both pregnancies my coworkers weren't helpful at all, so I carried a lot of heavy stuff. Right now I am in week 31 and still the coworker that is supposed to help tries to avoid helping at all costs. So yeah, frick it. The shop won't tidy up on its own. Quitting drinking. I tried everything I could think of. Support groups, drugs that make you sick if you drink while you're on them. Eventually I just said frick it. I'll do it myself and just stopped. Going on 2 years now without a drop. When I was trying to read a teleprompter so we could have Sting play us out with a cut from his new album. A while back I was looking for a werewolf novel about female werewolves. Literally the only books I could find. The entire purpose of the woman was to choose which alpha she would mate with. I finally decided, fine, if I have to write it myself, I will. So I started writing short stories about a werewolf private investigator in Seattle. Eventually I wrote a novel-length story. The 3rd book in the series won me an award. Last year I released the 10th and final book in the series. Every single moment. But my best, most interesting one I can think of, I had a wart on the bottom of my foot. Got it frozen twice and it wasn't going away. So I was like, frick it. Took a pair of tweezers and dug that bitch out. Hurt pretty bad but didn't need to get it frozen anymore. Lmao. Trainee wasn't understanding when I said hit the brake drum with a hammer as hard as you can. He used a regular one and complained it wasn't working, so I grabbed the sledgehammer, slammed it into the drum hard 3 times and it was ready to come off. This was after a trip to a doctor's office to have stitches removed. The stitches were on the chin from a sports accident. This was a first thing in the morning appointment so I could get to work on time. My primary care physician walks into the office sniffling and coughing, pre-pandemic, and really looks miserable. While he's busy on me he calls his secretary to cancel the rest of his appointments for the day. The guy really looks miserable. He's distracted and about to turn around and go home and crawl in bed. I don't think much more about it until after work. A sports buddy who was there for the accident says, "I thought you were getting the stitches out today." A moment and a mirror later it turns out yes, some of the stitches are still there. The physician had clipped at the knot but failed to take them all out. There will be a few days delay if I schedule a new appointment. Friends remark that the stitches are tied already and they'll leave a scar from the delay. So after getting home that evening I say frick it, sterilize and implement with a flame, and solve the problem myself. Now I have the stupid, badass accomplishment of having removed stitches from my own face. A Swiss Army knife truly can solve nearly anything. Not that it matters but I'm a woman. Local Starbucks kept fricking up my order, dirty chai. So I bought my own beans and make my own chai. Mead kept running low at the local specs. So I ordered the beer supplies and honey. Now the wife is annoyed that I have gone Viking and come commander the living room and the kitchen. Was at a dog park with my friend and his dog. He was meeting up with some of his dog walking buddies and all was going well. Until this woman who we had never seen before walks in with her German Shepherd. At this point I'd just like to say I'm not an expert with dogs but this one seemed very aggressive. It was staring menacingly at the other dogs and was growling which made me wary of what she did next. She walks over to a bench in the center of the dog park and lets her dog off the leash. Uh-oh. The dog starts trotting over towards our group of small/medium-sized dogs. Uh-oh number 2. Some dogs cower away from it as it starts to run. Oh shit. Before we knew it the G's was attempting to maul 2 dogs and was chasing them around the park. We all yelled at the woman to recall her dog and she just flipped the blame on us telling us we should have taken our dogs away from it, all the while she just saunters around after the dog, barely trying to stop it from attacking the other dogs. Me and my friend collectively decide, frick this, and chase after the dog. We separated from the others and have it in a corner and yell for the lady to get over here and leash her dog. One of the dogs that was attacked comes back for another go and the G's goes for it. I dive on top of it and pin it down telling for the woman to hurry up. She eventually gets over to me and leashes her dog and is then ushered out of the park by everyone. Never saw her again, fairly certain she didn't even live there. All I know is I felt like a frickin' Chad for tackling a G's. My second divorce. I printed out all the paperwork and instructions. Went to court, got it done. No lawyers involved, just a couple of judges, long story. Saved a lot of money and hassles. I had sewn through my finger, all the way through, and the needle broke. With COVID taking over the hospitals, I decided to pull the piece out with pliers. It was so painful but such an adrenaline rush. After 5 days I was still feeling pain in my finger so I went to get X-rays. There was still a 5mm long piece in there so I ended up at the hospital anyways. Was in a lot of pain with my IUD. I have a tilted uterus and had already had an IUD expel into my cervix before getting this one, and my gynecologist had no appointment openings to remove it for a few weeks. One night I was having particularly bad cramps and in a lot of pain. I was watching a movie on the couch with my roommate and excused myself to the bathroom and proceeded to pull it out of my uterus with my fingers. Was a little painful but got the job done without a doctor's visit. I had AAA for my work vehicle through work. I got a flat tire toward the end of my workday and called. They told me it would be 45 minutes. After 45 minutes they called back and said an hour. I told them to stuff it and stopped being lazy and changed it. I had to empty out the back of my work van to get to the stuff, but I got it done. 3/4 bolt through my tire. Today, I had a foot doctor's appointment. The person who showed me to my room asked if I needed help. I have hip arthritis that makes it difficult for me to put on and take off my shoes and socks, let alone trim my toenails and get rid of weird calluses that are a result of my altered gait. I have a $45 copay for the foot doctor to trim my nails and get rid of said calluses, which is cheaper than a pedicure. But I'll be damned if I am going to let a tech take off my shoes and socks and put them back on. I am 56 years old and hurt like a MF most of the time. But I ain't there yet, damn it. Was in a radiology residency at the VA on the radonc service, and wanted a computer program to optimize radium implants. The VA assigned me a programmer who didn't do shit for 3 months. I said frick that shit. I'll do it myself. Signed up for a class in Fortran, and coded a simplex algorithm to do the optimization. That was 1964, and I'm still coding. While working at a restaurant when I was younger I cut myself with a knife doing prep work and asked for first aid. which apparently we didn't have someone first aid trained on shift. So instead of going to the hospital to get stitches and wait in the ER for hours, I decided to cauterize the cut myself by using a spoon on the star top burners. No one looked at me the same after I did that. When my girlfriend insisted we try getting our taxes done at H&R Block, our 1-hour appointment for her taxes turned into 4 hours because the woman couldn't fricking use a computer, check a box, or read the words on her screen, and I, who do not do anything in the financial field, understood tax laws better than she did with her like 30 minutes of training. At some point I carefully pulled back my W-2s from her desk, and at the end of the appointment, went home and did my own taxes. And of course, I somehow still got my refund faster than my girlfriend did. Went to get a new battery. Thought I would just take it into the local tire/lube shop. They quoted me $350 to change it out. I laughed out loud, left, and replaced it for about $60, not top of the line, but neither was the car. It made me learn a lot about fixing minor things on cars going forward. My 4th year at Scout Camp was mainly to take care of the last badge I needed and do all of the fun ones, since they were impossible to do at home. Because of the bizarre age gap in the troop, I was the only scout out of 11 SH who had been to camp before. Parents were strongly encouraged to go with their kids to make sure that they got accustomed to camp, especially since camp's a big place, and the majority of scouts were only 12. We had to RSVP for camp 3 months in advance to secure a campsite and merit badge schedule. Because of camp regulations, the scouts in a troop had to sign up for the same badges with a pod system, just to make it easy to keep track of them. I was given special permission to have my own pod with my dad since I needed this last badge. Anyway, a week before sign-up, we learned that there were only going to be 3 parents there, and 2 had to work during the day while their kids went to their badge classes. Being the class president and oldest, I was asked by almost every parent in the troop to help their kids. So, I signed up for all of the same merit badges as the rest of my little scouts, except for the one I needed, obviously, even though I already had most of the ones they wanted to take. It was a huge pain rescheduling last minute and I didn't get much out of camp that year, but me being there was for the greater good of the troop. Thankfully, during my 5th year, I actually got to sign up for fun stuff.